People like you don't belong in a place like this." The words didn't slip. They struck. Hard. They cracked across the glass counters of the flagship jewelry house, bounced off the mirrors, and clung to the air like smoke. Every gem in the display seemed to dim under the weight of them. The manager's finger jabbed forward, sharp as a blade, her jaw tight, her eyes burning with certainty. She wasn't just speaking to a customer, she was delivering a sentence. Across from her, a woman in a white suit stood unmoving. No necklace, no loud brand stitched across her chest. Only calm, the kind of calm that unsettles bullies. The boutique staff behind the counter flinched. 3 attendants in navy uniforms looked on. Their bodies were stiff, but their eyes told the truth. They had seen this before. Prejudice dressed up as policy. The manager's voice climbed higher, slicing through the silence. "Step away from the showcase before I call security. You can't afford to touch what's inside." The insult rang louder than the chandelier's quiet hum. Customers shifted uneasily. A man near the entrance lowered his shopping bag. A young woman by the mirror tightened her grip on her phone. One of them raised it slightly, red light blinking, framing the confrontation as evidence. But the woman in white didn't break. She didn't defend. She didn't retreat. She lifted one hand, palm outward, stopping the finger aimed at her like a shield of air. Not aggressive, not defensive, just final. The stillness was unbearable. It screamed louder than the insult itself. This was not the first time she had heard it. At 20, they told her she looked too young to walk into a high-end store. At 30, they whispered, fraud, when she signed contracts larger than their annual revenue. Now, in her 40s, she was hearing the same words again, wrapped in the same arrogance, delivered in the same tone, and yet her silence carried history. Every slight before this one had sharpened her, not broken her. The manager pressed forward, mistaking calm for weakness. "You've been warned. Jewelry of this class isn't for you. Back away now." The woman's lips didn't move. Her gaze was steady, her posture deliberate. She was not a guest in this room. She was the test this room was failing. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change, and we're glad you're here. Now, back to her. The tension snapped tighter. A single breath from the wrong person could have shattered the calm. The attendants waited, eyes darting between their manager's raised hand and the woman's stillness. One of them, younger, bit her lip as if words were trapped behind it. The woman in white finally blinked, slow and measured, as though granting permission for the room to exhale. She shifted her weight slightly, and even that subtle movement carried gravity. She had not raised her voice. She had not taken a step back. But something in the room had already shifted. Because when dignity refuses to bow, the real cracks don't appear on the one being accused. They appear on the accuser. The glass doors of the flagship jewelry house had opened just minutes earlier with a whisper, not a fanfare. She stepped inside alone. No assistants trailed her. No cameras flashed. Just the sound of her heels against polished marble, measured, steady, the kind of rhythm that filled silence without needing permission. Her name was Naomi Ellis, 43 years old, founder of Ellis Holdings, the conglomerate behind 3 luxury brands, including this very jewelry chain. But no one here knew that. Not yet. She wore a tailored white suit, crisp but unbranded, the kind of elegance that never begged for attention. Her jewelry was minimal, a thin gold band on her finger, a watch with no logo. To the untrained eye, she was just another passerby trying too hard. To the arrogant, she was a target. She had come with intent. Tonight was the company's gala, and she wanted to see the new diamond collection before the spotlights and speeches. But she also came with a test. She had heard whispers, complaints about how certain clients were treated differently. She believed in truth best uncovered, not by audits, not by reports, but by standing in the fire herself. From the moment she walked in, the atmosphere shifted. Not because she was recognized, she wasn't, but because absence of recognition in rooms like this often meant something else. The glance, the pause, the instant cataloging of skin, dress, tone. One attendant glanced at her, then away, as if she were a shadow out of place. Another leaned toward the manager, lips tight. The manager didn't whisper. She stared openly, scanning Naomi head to toe like an uninvited guest. Naomi kept moving, calm, deliberate. She paused at the central showcase where the new emerald-cut diamond necklace rested under glass. Its brilliance caught the light like it wanted to be seen. She leaned closer, studying not the jewel but the reflection of the room around her. She saw their faces in the glass before she ever saw her own. That was when the first words came. Cold. Cutting. People like you don't belong in a place like this. Naomi didn't answer. Not with her mouth. Her silence said more than rebuttal ever could. She placed one hand lightly on the glass, not pressing, just present, as though reminding herself what she came for. Her mind flickered to memory. At 22, she had stood in another store, clutching her first bonus check, and been told, "Come back when you can really afford it." She left that day with nothing but a fire in her chest. Now, decades later, the fire still burned, but it no longer needed to lash out. It only needed to illuminate. The manager's voice broke her reflection. "Step back. Don't make me repeat myself." Naomi exhaled once, steady. Not a sigh of surrender, but the breath of someone waiting for the inevitable storm to reveal itself, because she knew what was coming, and she was ready. The room didn't breathe. The chandelier hummed faintly, its light cutting shards across the glass counters, but no one moved. The insult still lingered, vibrating in the air like static. Then the manager stepped closer, her heels clicking sharp against the marble. "You hear me? Step back. You're wasting everyone's time." "Oh." Naomi Ellis didn't move. Her hands rested calmly at her sides, her posture upright, her eyes steady, the kind of stillness that made the silence louder. Behind the counter, one of the attendants, a young woman barely out of training, shifted uncomfortably. Her lips parted, almost speaking, then closed again under the weight of the manager's glare. Her hand hovered near the register screen as though she wanted to check the system, but she didn't dare. Another attendant, older, folded his arms and smirked. "Manager's right. That necklace costs more than some people make in a lifetime. And she wants to touch it?" His voice wasn't loud, but it carried. A ripple went through the store. Two customers by the entrance exchanged looks. One pulled out her phone, pretending to scroll, but the red light on the camera betrayed her. Naomi stayed quiet. That calm was deliberate, a blade hidden in patience. The manager took Naomi's silence as defiance. She leaned in, her voice dripping with authority she didn't truly hold. "Security's just a call away. One word from me, and you'll be out on the sidewalk. Do you understand?" Naomi's eyes flickered to the necklace again, not in longing but in calculation. She saw her own reflection, flanked by faces of doubt. The irony wasn't lost on her. The jewel was protected by glass, but so was prejudice, both transparent, both sharp. The young attendant's voice finally broke the tension, soft, almost trembling. "Maybe we should just check her name in the system. It would take a second." The manager spun on her, eyes narrow, voice sharp enough to cut skin. "Don't question me. I know a fraud when I see one." Fraud. The word hit the room like a stone dropped in still water. Conversations in the corner stilled. A customer with a velvet shopping bag actually gasped. Naomi inhaled, then exhaled once. Slow. She remembered 26. Standing in a loan office, being told she was a high risk even after she placed collateral worth 3 times the requirement. Different room, same script. The older attendant snorted, emboldened. "Look at her watch. Plain. No brand. Fake, probably. Who walks in here without proof they can pay?" The customer with the phone raised it higher now, angling for a clear shot. Another whispered, "This doesn't feel right." But the manager ignored them all. She straightened her blazer, squaring her shoulders, as though the store itself had appointed her judge and jury. "Final warning," she said, voice echoing through glass and marble. "Step away, or I will have you removed." Naomi's reply wasn't verbal. She simply blinked once, slow, unbothered. The kind of blink that said she had already measured this moment and found it wanting. And in that breath, the tension in the store transformed. This was no longer about a necklace. It was about who they believed had the right to exist in that space. The manager's last words cut the air like broken glass. "Final warning. Step away or I will have you removed." But Naomi didn't step. She didn't flinch. She didn't even breathe faster. Her silence was a verdict, a quiet refusal that landed heavier than any protest. Her posture told the room everything. Shoulders squared, chin steady, eyes unblinking. She didn't need volume to claim space. The marble beneath her feet might as well have been anchored by her presence alone. The young attendant looked from her to the manager, torn. She whispered, barely audible, "She's not even resisting." But the words died as the manager's glare pinned her back into silence. Naomi slowly raised her hand, not in defense, not in surrender, just enough to interrupt the finger still jabbing at her. Her palm hovered in the air like a barrier of glass between arrogance and dignity. That one motion shifted the atmosphere. The room stilled, breath caught. A customer near the entrance whispered, "She didn't even say a word." Another replied, "She doesn't have to." Naomi's eyes moved from the necklace to the reflection of the room behind her. She could see them all, the staff's rigid postures, the customer's unease, the phone camera trembling as it recorded. She let the silence hold them captive. Inside her mind, memory flickered again. At 23, she sat in a boardroom surrounded by men twice her age, waiting 3 hours before anyone acknowledged her. At 30, a deal was delayed because an investor needed to confirm she wasn't just a front for someone else. Decades of being questioned, doubted, erased. And yet, each insult had carved not weakness but stillness, a patience that cut deeper than rage. The manager mistook that patience for defeat. She sneered, loud enough for everyone to hear. "See? Nothing to say. Because she knows she doesn't belong." But Naomi's lips curved not a smile, not mockery, just the faintest suggestion of control. It unsettled the room more than anger ever could. A man browsing cufflinks nearby muttered, "Why isn't she fighting back?" His companion answered softly, "Maybe she doesn't need to." Naomi adjusted her sleeve, a deliberate, graceful gesture, as if preparing for a meeting rather than a confrontation. She looked at the manager once, directly, her gaze steady enough to silence even the whispers. Then she returned her eyes to the necklace, as though the insult had never been spoken. It was not dismissal, it was a message. She would not be moved. And with every second she stood in silence, the pressure in the boutique shifted. It was no longer about whether she belonged. It was about why the accusers felt she didn't. The weight of that question filled the room like thunder waiting to break. The silence cracked not with Naomi's voice, but with the faint chime of a phone camera. From the corner near the entrance, a woman in a beige trench coat lifted her phone higher. The red light blinked steady, capturing every detail, the manager's raised hand, the diamond showcase between them, and Naomi's stillness at the center like a sculpture carved from resolve. "Are you recording?" someone whispered. "I am," she answered quietly. "People need to see this." "Oh." The sound carried just enough for the staff to notice. One of the attendants stiffened, his jaw tightening. The manager caught the movement and barked, "Put that away. No filming in this boutique." But the customer didn't lower her phone. She pressed closer to the counter instead, her lens unshaken. Naomi didn't look at the camera. She didn't need to. Her silence gave it power. The young attendant at the register swallowed hard. She'd been frozen in hesitation, but now her voice slipped out, trembling but true. "Manager, I think she has a reservation. Maybe we should check." "Quiet," the manager snapped, spinning on her. "Don't embarrass yourself. I know a fake when I see one." The word fake cut the room again, sharper now that witnesses were listening. A man browsing cufflinks frowned, muttering under his breath, "That's not how you talk to a client." The older attendant folded his arms, siding with the manager. "Look at her watch. Plain, no brand. Doesn't add up. I say we call security and be done with it." His words drew another ripple of unease. A teenage boy with his father near the showcase whispered, "She didn't even do anything." The father nodded, lips tight. Naomi remained silent, but her eyes shifted, catching the young attendant's nervous glance. That tiny moment of connection mattered. Someone inside the system had seen her, even if fear kept the truth caged. The woman with the phone spoke louder now, her voice steady. "I'm recording because this feels wrong." She hasn't raised her voice once. She just wants to look at jewelry. That's not a crime. The manager whipped around, her composure fraying. "Ma'am, if you don't stop recording, we'll have you removed as well." But the words didn't land the same way anymore. The crowd was awake now. The jewelry house, once polished and pristine, was turning into a stage. Every insult echoed louder because it was no longer contained, it was witnessed. Naomi adjusted the cuff of her suit again, her movements deliberate, poised, a contrast to the rising chaos around her. Her silence wasn't absence, it was pressure, building second by second, forcing others to choose a side. And they were choosing. The air wasn't neutral anymore. It was charged, and the charge was shifting away from the accuser. The boutique was no longer quiet. It pulsed, thick with judgment and resistance, every word louder because strangers were listening now. The manager's voice tore through it all, sharp and final. "She is not a client. She is a con artist. I want her out now." The words echoed off the glass cases, louder than the sparkle of diamonds trapped inside. Naomi Ellis didn't move. She stood steady, a still figure while accusations rained like stones. The older attendant stepped forward, feeding the fire. "Manager's right. She's wasting our time. I've seen this before. People walk in, flash a card, hope we don't check. It's a scam." Naomi didn't answer. Her silence wasn't weakness. It was the rope they were wrapping tighter around their own necks. The young attendant spoke again, fragile but braver this time. "But she hasn't done anything." "Enough." The manager's shout cracked the air, snapping heads toward her. "Security will handle this. She doesn't belong in this store, not in this section, not near this collection." A gasp rippled through the customers. One man near the entrance muttered, "Did she just say that out loud?" His wife shook her head, disbelief plain on her face. The woman recording whispered into her phone, "They just said she doesn't belong here. I've got it on video." The manager's face flushed, but her pride forced her forward. She slammed her hand against the counter, rattling the glass. "Call security." "Now." The older attendant smirked, already reaching for the landline. His voice oozed smugness as he muttered, "This'll be quick." The phone began to ring. Each chime was like a drumbeat marching toward humiliation. Naomi stayed rooted. Her gaze moved slowly, deliberately, from the necklace to the trembling young attendant, to the blinking red light of the recording phone. She gave them nothing, no outburst, no panic, no plea. And yet, her silence spoke louder than the insults. Customers shifted, unsettled by the imbalance. A woman calm, dignified, unmoving, versus staff unraveling, shouting, scrambling to justify their prejudice. A teenager whispered to his mother, "Why are they acting scared of her? She's just standing there." The mother replied softly, "Because calm makes them look guilty." The ringing on the line clicked. Security was coming. The manager straightened, victorious in her own mind. "This is over," she declared. "She'll be escorted out like the fraud she island." But the room didn't feel victorious. It felt unstable, like the marble itself was cracking beneath their words. Because if you strip away the shouting, the scene was clear. A woman silent, a crowd watching, and a system bearing its bias in real time. The storm wasn't ending. It was only gathering force. The phone clicked back onto the cradle, the older attendant grinning like he'd just won a prize. "Security's on their way," he said, loud enough for the whole boutique to hear. The manager straightened her blazer and leaned across the counter, eyes narrowed. "You've wasted enough of our time. Step away from that case before you embarrass yourself further." Naomi didn't move. Her eyes remained fixed on the emerald-cut diamond under glass, her reflection mirrored alongside it. She wasn't admiring the jewel. She was watching the way the room bent around her presence, fractured, exposed. The manager's patience snapped. With one swift motion, she yanked the showcase drawer open, reached inside, and snatched the necklace from its velvet stand. The gems caught the light, scattering shards across the walls. Gasps filled the boutique. "This," she hissed, holding the necklace aloft, "is not for you. You'll never touch it. Not today, not ever." The words weren't just exclusion, they were erasure. A customer near the entrance shouted, "That's enough." Another whispered, "Did she really just say that?" Phones tilted higher, catching every second. Naomi didn't reach for the necklace. She didn't flinch as the manager's knuckles whitened around it. Instead, she raised her chin slightly, as if weighing the insult in her hands before laying it back down in silence. The older attendant stepped closer, emboldened. He jabbed a finger at Naomi's wrist. "Check her bag. Check her pockets. I bet she's tried this scam before." His words landed heavy. The young attendant shook her head, voice trembling but clear this time. "She hasn't touched anything. She just looked." The manager whirled on her. "Quiet, or you'll be joining her outside." The girl froze, but the damage was done. Someone inside the store had spoken truth, and truth echoed louder than insult. Naomi's stillness deepened. Her hands clasped gently in front of her, shoulders squared, gaze steady. Every insult was a hammer striking an iron wall, and with each strike, the wall only rang clearer. The woman recording whispered into her phone's mic, They just grabbed the necklace, told her she'd never touch it. This is unbelievable. The manager slammed the necklace back into the case with a sharp thud. Security will be here any second, and when they are, you'll be escorted out for fraud. The word fraud echoed again, heavier now, poisoned with finality. Naomi exhaled once, calm, controlled. She didn't fight the word. She let it hang in the air, exposed, undeniable, a mirror of their own prejudice, because she knew what came next. They thought the storm was theirs, but the lightning had not struck yet. The boutique vibrated with whispers, the tension heavier than velvet curtains. The manager's voice still rang in the air. Fraud. The insult was fresh, raw, meant to end the moment. But Naomi Ellis did not end. She moved. Her hand slipped into her jacket pocket with deliberate calm. Every eye followed, some expecting panic, others expecting protest. Instead, she pulled out a phone, slim, black, silent in her palm. She tapped once. The line opened immediately. A voice answered on the other end, crisp and steady. Yes, Miss Ellis. The name alone tilted the air. A few customers frowned, whispering. The young attendant's eyes widened. The manager didn't catch it, too busy glaring. Naomi's voice was quiet, measured. Activate Protocol 7. Location: flagship jewelry house. Begin verification. Her words weren't for the room, but the room heard them, and it shifted. The manager scoffed, her laugh brittle. What is this, some act? Calling a friend to pretend you belong here? But Naomi didn't look at her. She kept her eyes on the necklace under glass, on the reflection of the people now frozen behind her. Her stillness was no longer passive, it was preparation. The older attendant folded his arms tighter. She's bluffing. Security will be here any minute. The phone crackled softly. The voice on the other end replied, Understood. System access initiated. Internal logs syncing now. The words carried authority the boutique had never heard before. The woman recording with her phone leaned closer, whispering, Did you hear that? System access? This is bigger than it looks. The young attendant's lips parted again, but fear sealed them shut. Still, her eyes betrayed recognition. She knew the name Ellis. She knew what Protocol 7 meant. But the others didn't not yet. Naomi lowered her phone slightly, but kept the line open. She clasped her free hand over the other, centering herself like a judge preparing to rule. Then, for the first time since stepping inside, she spoke to the room. Her voice was low, even, but it cut sharper than any insult they had thrown. You've accused me. You've threatened me. And you've humiliated me in front of witnesses. Oh, she paused, letting the silence swallow the words. You will regret it. Not because I shout, not because I film, but because you chose the wrong woman to erase. The boutique froze. The customers shifted. The recording phone trembled. And for the first time, the manager faltered. For a moment, silence ruled. The boutique, once polished, curated, controlled, now felt like a courtroom. Every witness had their phones raised, and every lens was fixed on one truth. The woman they tried to erase was the woman who owned it all. The young attendant broke first. She dropped her hands from the register and whispered, louder than she meant to, I knew it. I saw her name. I should have spoken sooner. The older attendant's smirk dissolved into panic. He stepped back, nearly bumping into a glass case. His voice faltered. Manager, we made a mistake. But the manager didn't answer. Her face had drained of all authority, her jaw locked in disbelief. She opened her mouth, closed it again, then muttered only one word. No. Customers were no longer silent. The woman in the trench coat, still filming, spoke directly into her camera. You're watching this live. A black woman just got called a fraud in her own store, and she proved she owns it. Comments exploded across her screen. Little hearts, shocked emojis, words racing faster than she could read. Unbelievable. Justice right here. This is going viral. The teenager by the entrance raised his phone, too. His caption was blunt. They tried to kick her out. Turns out she's the boss. Applause cracked through the tension. It started with one pair of hands, slow, deliberate. Then another joined, and another, until the sound echoed through glass and marble, not the applause of a gala, but of justice made visible. Naomi Ellis didn't move. She didn't bask in it. She simply stood, her calm anchoring the chaos. The manager staggered back from the counter. Her authority, once inflated, now collapsed under the weight of her own words replaying in 100 cameras. People like you don't belong here. The sentence would live forever online, and now it was a monument to her downfall. The older attendant whispered urgently, "We need to fix this. We can apologize." But Naomi's gaze cut him off. Not sharp, just steady. The kind of look that said, "It's too late." A customer near the showcase spoke loudly, for all to hear. She never raised her voice once, and you all treated her like a criminal. That tells us everything. Gasps turned to murmurs, murmurs to voices, voices to a tide. The boutique had shifted from accusation to judgment, and the accused were no longer Naomi. The young attendant, voice trembling, stepped forward. She was calm, she was patient, and we failed her. Phones zoomed in, capturing her words. In that instant, the story was no longer contained to a room. It belonged to everyone watching. The collapse was complete. The applause died down, leaving a silence more powerful than noise. Naomi Ellis stood at the center, untouched by the chaos swirling around her, calm, steady, final. She lifted her phone again, not to film, but to command. Her voice was even, measured, every syllable deliberate. Log the incident. Effective immediately, terminate access for store manager Helen Ward and senior associate David Rhodes. Lock their credentials across all systems. The voice on the other end responded without hesitation. Confirmed. Access revoked. Processing now. A soft electronic chime echoed from behind the counter. The manager's computer screen flickered. Her login vanished. The older attendant's register froze, a red error message flashing. Access denied. Gasps filled the boutique. The customers leaned closer, filming the collapse in real time. The young attendant's eyes widened as her colleagues fumbled with dead terminals. The manager slammed her hand against the counter. You don't have the authority to... Naomi's gaze cut her short. I built this authority, you only borrowed it, and now it's gone. Phones caught every word. The woman in the trench coat whispered into her mic. She just fired them. On the spot. Helen's face blanched. She reached for her badge, scanning it at the side door. It beeped red. Denied. Again. Denied. A third time denied. Each tone sharper than the last, until the sound itself was humiliation made digital. The older attendant tried his badge, hands shaking. The same red light blinked. He staggered back, muttering, "It's gone. It's really gone." Oh. Naomi lowered her phone slowly, clasping both hands in front of her. She spoke not to them, but to the room, to every witness holding a camera. Power isn't shouting. It isn't pointing. It isn't pretending you belong. Power is truth, and truth doesn't need permission. The teenager near the entrance whispered, "That's the coldest thing I've ever heard." His mom nodded, eyes wet. The young attendant stepped forward, trembling but determined. "Miss Ellis, I'm sorry. I didn't speak soon enough. I should have..." Naomi lifted her hand gently, stopping her mid-sentence. "You chose truth in the end. That's what matters. Remember it." The cameras panned back to Helen. Her once flawless composure had shattered. She looked around the boutique, but no one stood with her. Not her staff, not her customers, not even her own systems. Naomi's final words landed with the weight of a gavel. "You tried to erase me from my own store, but the only name erased today is yours." The boutique erupted not with chaos, but with clarity. Justice had been delivered. The boutique was no longer the manager's domain. It was Naomi Ellis's courtroom, and the verdict had already been delivered. Screens frozen, badges useless, pride dismantled in real time. Yet Naomi wasn't finished. She stepped forward, closing the small distance between herself and the counter. The emerald-cut diamond still glittered under the glass, but all eyes were on her. Phones hovered, hearts pounded, silence stretched. Naomi placed her palm gently on the counter, not as a claim, not as a threat, but as an anchor. Her voice, when it came, was low, steady enough to make the marble feel like it carried the sound. "You thought silence meant weakness, but silence is patience. Patience sharpens justice." The words landed heavy. No one dared to speak. She straightened, her white suit catching the light like a beacon against the fractured pride of those she'd undone. Her eyes swept the room, taking in every witness. "I don't need to record this moment. I don't need proof on video, because I am the proof. Every breath I take in these rooms is proof. Every wall built with my name is proof. And today, you all saw it for yourselves." Gasps rippled. A woman near the entrance whispered, "That line, that's going viral." Oh, the young attendant, tears brimming, nodded. The trenchcoat customer lowered her phone just long enough to clap again. Others followed, the sound swelling not applause for a show, but respect for a reckoning. Helen Ward, the former manager, stood frozen, her authority stripped bare. She mouthed words, excuses, denials, but no sound came. No one was listening anymore. Naomi took one last look at her, then turned to the crowd. Dignity doesn't need permission. Justice doesn't need noise. And power, she paused, her gaze steady. Power doesn't ask, it acts. Phones shook in trembling hands. Some captured her face, others the frozen badge readers, others the humiliated staff standing powerless in the shadows of a woman they'd tried to erase. Naomi gave a final nod to the young attendant, the only one who had dared to speak truth, even when fear pressed down. Then she turned, calm and measured, walking back across the marble floor the same way she had entered, alone, unguarded, unstoppable. The doors opened with a whisper, and just like that, she was gone. But the story was already everywhere. By nightfall, the clip would rack up millions of views. The words, "I am the proof," would spread across feeds like fire. And those who had witnessed it would carry the memory of a woman who never raised her voice, never broke her calm, yet dismantled an entire facade of power in less than an hour. Because justice doesn't need an audience, but when it has one, it changes everything.